You can't please everyone. It doesn't matter if you're shirts or skins, in the rain or shine, you're always going to tick off somebody. But is that really your problem? Let's discuss that today on our lounge. Up first, an OP soaking up some sun at the beach. Am I the a-hole for not covering up my boobs when I saw my friend, her husband, and kids on holiday? Last week, I, 40 female, UK, went on holiday to Lanzarote with husband Dan and 2 kids, 14 girl, 10 boy. Independently, our friends Helen and Graham were going to the same resort with their 2 girls, 9 and 7. We didn't make any formal plans to meet, but said we might arrange dinner while we were there. One day we were on the beach by the edge of the sea, paddling and playing bat and ball. I was topless. I always go topless on holiday if local laws allow. I've done it since around the age of 14. My mom and sisters did too. I know it's a contentious issue, especially in the US, where people can be very prudish, but it's just a totally normal, non-sexual thing for me. In Europe, it's very common, and there were lots of topless women on the beach that day. I'm anticipating certain questions here. No, I'm not a nudist. No, I don't parade around naked at home in front of my kids or their friends. I just sunbathe topless on holidays and in my garden. The kids don't bat an eyelid, but if I got any inclination it was a problem for them, I likely wouldn't do it. Helen and Graham's kids appeared unexpectedly and ran up to us. I looked around and Helen and Graham were there too. We greeted them. I gave each of them a kiss on the cheek, as I always do when I greet my friends. We stood and chatted while the kids played, but Helen seemed quiet. Her girls asked me to play bat and ball with them. I said yes, but Helen abruptly said they had to go. Kids were disappointed, but Dan suggested meeting later for dinner. Graham accepted. Later, I got a text from Helen to cancel dinner. She was upset with me for not putting a top on when we saw them. Quote, "Would it have killed you to put your tits away when we arrived?" She was angry that I'd kissed Graham while topless and that I was going to play bat and ball with her kids with my, quote, "bare boobs swinging around." And later her 2 girls were giggling about Sarah's massive wobbly boobs. She said she didn't want to see me that night. I was upset. I didn't think I'd done anything wrong given that we were on the beach where loads of women had their boobs out. I didn't have a chance to cover up. The first I knew of their presence was when they were up close and had already seen I was topless. I'd have to walk past them 50 foot up the beach to our towels, etc. to put on a top. It would have been like shutting the stable door after the horse had bolted. I replied that I was sorry she was upset and that I'd made her angry. Since getting home, I've texted her again, but I've had no response. Dan has seen Graham, who said he wasn't upset about it, but he and Helen had argued afterwards when she accused him of enjoying the view too much. Dan thinks I didn't do anything wrong. We weren't expecting to see them. There were other topless women their kids could giggle at, and for Graham to feast his eyes on if that's what he really was doing, and by the way, neither of us think he was. But I'm sorry I've upset my friend and wonder if I'm an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Wow. I didn't expect this amount of responses. I'm overwhelmed and appreciate all the replies. Whether or not the a-hole or yes the a-hole. Thank you all. Couple of things that keep getting raised, asked. When I kissed Graham, I didn't pull him into a full hug. I leaned in from an angle and air kissed his cheek. My boobs didn't go anywhere near touching him. Apologies if I didn't clarify this point. Ditto their kids. I didn't contact them at all. They were mostly interested in seeing my kids, not me. The bat and ball game was a beach tennis game. Wooden bats, shaped like table tennis paddles, small rubber ball. Idea is to try to keep a rally going with your opponent. It would have meant a gentle back and forth tapping of the ball. Doubt it would have been too successful with 2 small kids, and I certainly wouldn't have been leaping around like Serena Williams. Some are calling it a topless beach. It was just a normal beach, not specifically a topless one. In the Canaries, you're allowed to sunbathe topless on beaches. Most people don't, but a lot do. Some have said Helen is jealous or insecure. I really don't know if that's the case. I think she's gorgeous and doesn't need to be. I'm certainly no supermodel. I just don't have any hang-ups about my body. She is smaller than me in that department, but I have no idea if that's an issue for her or not. It really shouldn't be. Thanks again. Now let's see what the community actually said. Mopper300 says, "Not the a-hole. You and your massive wobbly boobs can do whatever you dang well please as long as the local laws allow. If she had a problem with it, she shouldn't have come up to you in the first place. She surely could have noticed you were topless from afar before approaching." Edit. I'm severely disappointed in you, Reddit, for nobody yet replying with, "Yes, she should have, and don't call me Shirley." Randomized name system says, "Not the a-hole. Beware the killer nipples. If you take kids to a beach that allows toplessness, there will be tits." Lieutenant Colonel Shiny-Side says, "Not the a-hole. If the local laws say you can have your tits out, you're well within your rights to do so. If you don't want your kids seeing titties, don't bring them to a topless beach. This is like taking your kid to Hooters and complaining their staff uniforms are inappropriate." I don't think you're the a-hole here at all, OP. You're both on vacation, and frankly, you're spending the money. You can do and relax however you want on vacation. It does sound like this can be chalked up to some insecurities on Helen's end. If she knew that many other people were on the beach topless, why would she have even gone to that beach if she thought it was disgusting? Find a different beach, Helen. Thoughts? Meanwhile, next up, an OP trying to navigate some rough waters. Am I the a-hole for telling my 28 fiance, 29, that I could not rely on her in a life or death situation? I have what I think is a very good sense of situational awareness. I'm a quick thinker, and I tend to not panic in dangerous situations. My fiance, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. If I'm being nice, I would say she doesn't have any awareness of danger. If I'm being honest, I would say that she has the survival instinct of a panda raised in captivity. She has no sense of danger around her, doesn't constantly examine her surroundings for things that could be dangerous, and when things are bad, her reaction is to panic and scream. Friday, we went out on a friend of mine's boat, and we got into a dangerous situation. We were anticipating light rain, but we ended up in a downpour, high winds and high waves. While me and the other men were trying to strap things down and keep the boat from capsizing, my fiancée screamed and cried for dear life. She was in hysterics, and I get it was a scary situation, but her yelling and screamed that we're all gonna die, and for God to save us, and literally crying, saying that it's my fault that she's on the boat since I asked her to come with. None of the other girlfriends or wives were doing this, just her. I'm sure the other women there were just as scared, but tried to keep it in for the sake of the men doing something about it. The downpour was really bad for about 15 minutes. So 15 minutes of wailing while we are doing everything we can to keep things all right. We made it back safe with little more damage than a few spilled White Claws. On the car ride home, I told my fiancée that we needed to talk about how she was behaving during the crisis. Not only was it incredibly embarrassing in the front of my boys, but it was distracting, unhelpful, and telling. I told her that today proved to me that if I was in a life or death situation, I could not rely on her to be any help or do anything except make things more stressful. I said she needed to learn how to not panic and be helpful. She got unbelievably mad. She said she thought she was going to die and had reason to freak out. I told her that all of us were scared, but none of us were as ridiculous as she was. We argued the entire ride, and she is still pissed off at me. I think I was right to say this, especially since we plan on spending our lives together and raising a family, and I can't be the only level-headed one. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Oh my effing geez. The women there did not help because they did not know how to help. The men there have been out together on the boat countless times before, so we all are experienced and know exactly what to do. It's so much more unsafe for them to be in our way attempting to help if they don't really know what they're doing. It's safer for everyone if they just hang on and keep calm until the issue is resolved. This has nothing to do with them being women. It has everything to do with them not knowing what to do. If another guy had been there and didn't know what to do, I'd tell them to sit tight and let those of us that do know handle it. Let's see how the community reacts. George likes the banana. Not the a-hole. She can feel and react however she pleases, but that doesn't change the facts. So you're correct. She was unhelpful and only made an already scary situation even more stressful. It's indeed a very useful skill to have, to be able to think somewhat straight in a crisis situation, or at the very least have the sense to not make it worse for those who are trying to help. GTE 105U says, not sure you handle the delivery well, but it's a fair concern. If you have children, she cannot freak out every time she is scared. Unfortunately, she probably learned this from her parents and would pass it on. Not the a-hole, though the delivery sounds flawed. Would work on that. There's probably an apology needed there. You may need counseling on this, but ultimately it will probably never change. You just need to decide if it impacts your long-term plans. Consistent Annual 268 says, what exactly was your aim with the discussion? Because it sounds to me like you wanted to put your fiancée in her place, rather than talk about her traumatic experience and try to understand what happened with her, so that you could help her manage her stress response better next time. Face it, you were absolutely not trying to help at all by bringing this up with her in the way you did. You were not solutions focused. You wanted to assign blame and guilt. Think about one thing though. You're not even helping yourself by doing this, because now you've only put extra doubt on your fiancé's mind the next time any situation comes up. You're the a-hole to your fiancé and to yourself in the long run. I'm not even touching the misogynistic overtones in your post. Other commenters will cover that better. Brace yourself to get absolutely clobbered by, am I the a-hole on this one? Faux Fakult says, it's hard for me to understand you're the a-hole here, even as a woman who is a feminist and has been actively fighting for our rights for decades. In a tense moment, the partner escalated the situation. In moments of crisis, you don't want an escalator. That's how accidents happen. That's how riots start. That's how people are accused and blamed. That's how lives are lost or ruined. If you're critiquing OP for not being solutions-oriented, the partner deserves the same critique, except even more so, because she was trying to inspire panic and frenzy among others. How dangerous and stupid that was, no matter her gender. I think the conversation probably could have gone a bit better and approached differently. She was legitimately afraid, and that's okay. We all have our fears. I think perhaps worrying more about that and how your fiancé was feeling was more important than how you felt embarrassed in front of the boys. Thoughts? Lastly, try to love thy neighbor. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my neighbor and her 2 young children when their wipers were frozen? I, 59 male, live in a major city in Ontario, Canada. I live in a small subdivision and have 5 neighbors total on my street. For the past few years during the winter when we're getting a lot of snow or bad storms, as I'm leaving for my overnight shift at around 8 or 9 p.m., I'll put my wife's windshield wipers up on her car and do a quick walk around to my other 5 neighbors and put their windshield wipers up on their cars. Obviously not if they're outside or something, but if it looks like they're in for the night. Many of them forget to do this, as many of them have children and typically slips their mind, and their wipers will be frozen to their car in the morning. It's just something nice I like to do to look out for my neighbors. They're all always grateful of this and thank me for it. Many of them started doing it too, and there will be nights where I'll forget to put mine and my wife's up, and in the morning one of the neighbors has done it for us. Anyway, recently one of our neighbors moved, and a new family moved in as of last week. It's a young couple and their 2 young children. The other night I was leaving for my overnight shift at around 9 p.m. It was snowing really heavily, and we were supposed to be getting almost 30 centimeters of snow, and it was freezing out. So I put my wife's wipers up and do my usual quick walk around to the other neighbors. I was hesitant when I reached my new neighbor's house, as I've only introduced myself once, but did it anyway. As I was putting the second wiper up on their pickup truck, the husband came charging out of his front door yelling, "Hey, what the F are you doing my truck?" I tried to explain to him I was just putting his wipers up to help him. He continued to scream at me to get the hell off my property and don't touch my crap again. The wife then came out and started yelling at me too. I apologized and started walking away. Some of my other neighbors heard the commotion and came outside to see what was happening. They tried to explaining to him, too, that it's just something we do. Both of them weren't having it. Fast forward to this morning. I'm arriving home from my overnight shift, and as I'm walking in, I see the wife of this couple struggling outside to break the ice off the windshield wipers to the truck. Guess she was trying to take her kids to school and the wipers were frozen solid on the car. She sees me and yells over, "Hey there, do you mind giving me a hand, please?" I look over to her and yell back, "No, sorry, thought I was to never touch your crap again, ma'am," and walked back inside. She yelled at me, "Wow, a-hole." Told my wife about this. She thinks I should have just helped her because she was just trying to get her kids to school. I disagree, as I was just following what they told me. Am I the a-hole? Let's see how the community judges this person. Lee Lied says, "Not the a-hole for refusing to help. I understand why the neighbors might have had the initial, 'What the F, get away from my truck' reaction, but that's only excusable for like 30 seconds. Once you explained that you were trying to help, and they saw that literally every other car had the wipers up, they should have, at minimum, apologized for yelling at you, even if they didn't want to accept your help. It's good to refuse help to people who rejected your help, especially for the exact problem you tried to help them with. They'll either solve the problem themselves or learn not to shout so much before getting the facts." The next comment comes from Mortal Smile 8631. "Not the a-hole. I understand if they just saw a random person touching their vehicle and freaking out, but once you explained and the neighbors also explained to clear up misunderstandings, they really should have apologized. They got what they deserved with frozen wipers in the morning." Weekend Breakfast has one more comment. "Not the a-hole. Bad karma's a B word. She just found out what happens when you bite a helpful hand." I don't think you're the a-hole at all. You legitimately were trying to be nice and do something good, and they came at you quite violently. After all, they did tell you not to touch their stuff and to stay off their property, and that you did. Perhaps your neighbors can learn something from this. Not everyone in this world has bad intentions. Some people out there do want to lend a helping hand and make life a little easier for everyone. Let us know if you have a similar experience in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on Our Lounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below.